This episode is sponsored by the amazing Drew.
Hello everybody. Today we are going to build this. No. We are not ripping off Spitfire Audio. Although they did release a tape Synths a couple of days ago. But you know, I rip off Spitfire Audio ripped someone else off, and someone will rip me off at some point. Good artist borrow, great artist steal. But jokes aside, Spitfire Audio partnered up with BlankFor.ms, an excellent artist in my opinion, who together with Heinbach and Amulets have popularized the use of tape and tape loops on YouTube for getting that lo-fi sound. But those of you that watch my videos regularly know that I like to build my own sample-based instruments, and I like to share my process with you. So if you want to learn a few basic but important techniques into creating your own tape synth, keep watching. So let's head to the Stuka's laboratories to show you how we are going to tackle this one. In the process, let me check my newly installed voice recognition. Open door, please.
Non comprende.
Open the door. Here we are. Oh, lights. Oh, much better. So, right, let me attach this here. Okay. I hope the audio is good. So our process will be divided into two phases. Phase 1 will prepare the samples, and in phase 2 we'll use those samples to build our Kontakt instrument. For the sample preparation, we could of course use something like this. Oh my god, it's heavy. Or even record on cassette, or could even use things like the green modular behind here. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I prefer to use things in the box. So let's jump into Cubase or Reaper or Logic, maybe Logic not. And I'm going to load from the Kontakt's factory library an upright piano, which sounds something like this. No, I'm not going to put you through that again. I will play a very uninspiring A4 note. Excellent. Our first free plugin is Chow Tape. It's a tape emulation. Chow DSP, easily one of the best free plugins in the market. I'm not going to go into detail the different controls, but I just want to get some kind of tapey effect. Let's listen to the same uninspiring A4 note through the Chow Tape model. So there is a little bit of uneven tone, and the flutter is a little bit pronounced, and there is some kind of saturation. Great. I'm going to render this sound and reverse it, which sounds something like this. Both of them together, the forward processed and the reversed. And I'm going to export this as tape 11 layer 1. For our second layer, I'm going to load another Kontakt factory library patch, a French oboe, which sounds something like this. And we'll pass it from our second free plugin, which is made by Cymatics, Origin. Listen to the same sound through this plugin. It introduces a little bit of cassette, a little bit of saturation, movement and chorus. And we are also removing a lot of the high frequencies to simulate that kind of frequency loss due to tape. I will have this play back together with my first reverse sound, and I'll export the whole thing as layer 2. Great, on to the third layer. For the third layer, we're going to load a Vital patch, which is a free synth. I'm sure you all know Vital, and sounds something like this. Very simple patch. I think there is a little bit of reverb going on and a filter, and a little bit of 9 voices that are slightly detuned. Excellent. Now we're going to pass this from our final free plugin, which is from Tone Boosters, Reelbus. It's an excellent tape emulation. It has a lot of other features. It's practically free because the demo has no limitations apart from you cannot save your settings. It does cost $29. If I use it in more than 25 projects, I will give them $29. But for now, we can use it for free. And let's see how Vital sounds through this. I also introduce a little bit of movement, flutter and wow, and considerable wear and hiss. And we'll export this as its own layer, layer 3. And this concludes our sample preparation phase 1. We'll now jump into Kontakt and build our tape synth. And here we are. What the fuck? Alright. Here we are in Kontakt. Double click in the empty space. In case you want to know about the basics of the Kontakt sampling engine, watch my previous video, which is an overview. For now, let's click the wrench icon. Don't be afraid, you can click. By the way, let me take this opportunity to thank all of you that liked and subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate it. It motivates me to create more videos like this. Now, clicking the wrench icon gets you into the world of Kontakt. Here in the browser section, our 3 samples, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. We will first look at the group editor. When we create a new instrument in Kontakt, the first group carries an envelope modulation, ADSR, for the volume, where you can regulate the attack, how slow or fast the sound comes in, the sustain, at which point the sound will sustain, the decay, how long will it take to reach that sustain level, and the release, which determines how long the sound will last after we depress the key. This will be a long release and this will be a very sharp release. So we have already ADSR assigned to the volume. There is already velocity regulating the volume by what? Around 39%. And we want to add another modulator, the important modulator. We want to add the modulation wheel to regulate the volume. Click the Add Modulator, and since our modulation wheel is CC1, we are going to go to External Sources, add MIDI CC, and it's number 1. And now the modulation wheel regulates the volume at 100%. But how does it regulate it? It regulates it linearly. If we click this button here and then we activate the curve, we see that as we increase the modulation, the volume will progressively increase as well. I'll show you how this will become our main point in designing this tape synth. But for now, this is all we need for group 1. I will duplicate it twice. I'll then proceed to label layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3. I will now inactivate edit all groups so that we can individually edit groups. I will solo the groups. I will also open our mapping editor where we can map the different samples to the keys, and I will select selected groups only so that we can only see what we are working with. Now I have my first group selected and I know that I recorded an A4, but I will drop it just because I can on A3. I will now choose layer 2 group and drop sample layer 2 on the same key, and layer 3. Now our 3 groups contain our 3 sample layers. I will select using Shift, click all groups, then select our zones, and I will map them to the range of our keyboard. As simple and uncomplicated as that. I want to look at the wave editor. You see, when I press a key, it starts playing until the end and then stops. I want to create a loop. I want the samples to loop back and forth until I release the key. For this, I'm going to activate one sample loop, and I will set the behavior of the sample loop to go back and forth until I release the key, this option. I will come here and I will apply these loop settings to all zones. Kontakt tells you that it will take quite some time, but actually it doesn't. I think this was made for 2009 Kontakt. Now, or if you use 1345 groups. Whatever the case, now we have 3 groups, each containing 3 different samples that alternate back and forth until release. Let's look at the modulation wheel. I'm going to repeatedly press a key and I will slowly increase the modulation wheel. As I modulate up, we get more and more volume, and as I modulate down, we get less volume. Actually, I want group 1 to play at the maximum volume when the modulation is down. Let me switch on this camera so you see what I'm doing. Right, so you see, I want the curve to go the other way. I'll also adjust the slope of the curve. If I play and I modulate up, group 2. I want the behavior of group 2 to be different. I want it to reach a maximum somewhere in the middle, and then I want it to be reduced. Excellent. Move to group 3. I want my group 3 to increase as I modulate up. So now to get an overview of what's happening here, let me close the wave editor and the mapping editor and just look at the groups. We have group 1, 2, 3. Group 1, as you modulate up, the volume decreases. For group 2, as you modulate up, the volume increases. And if you modulate to the end, the volume decreases. And group 3, as you modulate up, the volume increases. So you can see now, when you position the modulation wheel somewhere, you will get a mixture of layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3. And as you move the modulation, you'll get a different texture that is determined by the relative contribution of each samples in these layers. Apart from the modulation wheel, we have general control of the ADSR of all our groups, and we can also have control of a sound start. If I move the start position, we can start here, anywhere we want. And by using the modulation wheel, the start position and the ADSR, we can shape a sound. Now our job is to link the ADSR to faders. So one fader for attack, one for decay, one for sustain, one for release. One fader for regulating the start position of our samples, and a big knob that will be linked to our modulation wheel that will show us visually how our modulation wheel moves. I'll do the scripting really quick and I'll come back. And we are back. It's been a minute or two. This is our interface, the Chow Tape. We simply have sliders for attack, decay, sustain, release, a slider for the start position, and a big knob that controls the modulation wheel. So I can use my modulation to adjust. Let me quickly map the ADSR on my controllers by right mouse clicking. This is what I would call medieval scripting. I wouldn't even consider it scripting. We just linked the ADSR to different faders and the modulation wheel to a knob. If you want to see a scripter, maybe I'll find one to show you. However, in future videos I will touch a little bit on scripting, how you can link sliders to different controls and also some other tricks. But for now, let's try our new Chow Tape. Okay. So let's see what kind of different sounds can we get from this. Let's see if we can increase the attack just to create a slow Let's play with the start position. So as you can see, by playing with the modulation wheel, the start position, and shaping our sounds using the ADSR controls, we can create unique patches from these 3 layers. We've been conservative with our 3 layers. You could go extravagant and design 3 completely different layers that crossfade. Let's say that I like this patch. I can easily come here to my snapshot manager, click the save and say subscribe patch. The beauty of this system is that I can easily come back to my 3 layers, delete each of these 3, and I can import 3 different groups, and automatically we have an interface, a tapes synth that we can play with. It's relatively straightforward to build your own tape synth. At some point I'll find a way to make this Kontakt instrument free as a template, so that you can drag and drop your own 3 layers to create your very own tapes synth. So like and subscribe if you want to know when I'm going to release this template, and I hope you found value in today's adventures. Don't forget, be happy.